Good morning. Olivia, will you join us, please? So weeks ago, you guys stepped up to the plate and helped one of our own, Miss Olivia Curry. She was getting ready to head to New Orleans. Here, this is for you. She's getting ready to head to New Orleans and to minister to the homeless population there. I'll get out of your way. And so Olivia's back, and she sent me an email this week and said, hey, would you like for me to come share? I said, you bet I would. So for about 5 minutes, she's going to share what her experience was in New Orleans and what we were able to help her to accomplish.
All right. So huge thank you to Jason for putting all this together. I emailed him in December, I think, when I was like, hey, I have this idea. Can you help me? And he was like, sure. And so thank you so much for everything you did, for doing all the legwork, for getting the snack pack drive together. And a thank you to you guys. You blew my mind, honestly. My car, if you saw my car a couple weeks ago, it was literally filled to the brim, and I could not fit any more stuff in there. So you guys just absolutely blew my mind. For those of you who don't know, I feel like God is calling me to missions. And so to know already that I'm a part of such a great church that is willing to support me already is such a huge encouragement to me. So thank you so much for that. So while we were in New Orleans, we worked with 4 different organizations: Baptist Friendship House, Grace at the Green Light, a church called Vucare, and Global Maritime Ministries. And I didn't intend for it to be like this, but all of them were homeless organizations. So that ended up being the focus of our ministry, was homeless ministry. And so the snack packs, we were able to, I didn't get a chance to count them because it got kind of crazy, but I know my goal was 200, and I'm positive that we had well over 200. And we were able to give all of them out. To give you an idea of the need that is in New Orleans, we were able to give all of them out by Tuesday evening. All of them were gone. And so that was just crazy to me. And so it was really cool. Snack packs are a really easy way to open up conversation, because once you meet a need, people are a lot more receptive to what you have to say, because they're like, hey, you actually care about me as a person. You're not just like, hear what I have to say. And so we got to have a lot of cool conversations based on snack packs. And then also another part of our ministry that I didn't originally intend to be part of our ministry, but it worked out this way, is we stayed at a place called India House Hostel, which is at a place where a lot of people who are traveling from all over the country and all over the world will stay. Like a lot of backpackers will go through there. And so we got to have a lot of conversations with people from all over the country and all over the world. And there was one in particular, his name was Adam. We met him the second night we were there, and he kind of hung out with us for a couple days. And he actually went and handed out snack packs with us one day, which was crazy because he wasn't a believer. And so for him to give up some of his vacation to go and hand out snacks to homeless people just blew my mind. But we had, during the time that we hung out with him, we had a couple of gospel conversations, but never really laying out the gospel. But he emailed me the day after he left, and he said, this is the message that he sent to our group. He said, hey, it's Adam. I was hoping I'd run into you guys this morning before I checked out, but it looks like I missed you. I just wanted to say it was a pleasure to meet you all, and that you are a very welcoming group of people. Seeing that there are still people who are strong in their Christian convictions but also open-minded gives me a hope for the future. If everyone were a little more like that, the world would be a much better place. I hope you're able to hold on to that openness going forward into your lives, and then so on. So after literally just 2 days of hanging out with this guy, he was like, hey, these people are different. And it blew my mind because, like I said, we only had a couple gospel conversations with them. But literally our witness came from the fact that we were decent people. And so I think that's a huge testament. I'm not saying don't go and share the gospel. it is not at all an excuse to say, oh, I'm living well, so that's good enough. But definitely there is something to be said for living in such a way that people notice, and living in such a way that that God is evident in what you're doing. And so many times people were like, they found out what we were doing and why we were there, and they were like, you're in college and you're spending your spring break giving out snack packs to homeless people. And so a lot of confusion came from that. But that was really cool for us to, kind of open up more conversation. So yeah, thank you so much. Again, you're a huge blessing and a huge encouragement just to me personally. And thank you for all that you do for missions as hopefully a future missionary. And yeah.
Thank you, Olivia. You did great. Now that's exciting to a missions director. I'm just telling you, that's the kind of stuff I live for. All right, guys, if you will, turn in your Bibles. We're going to wrap this series up today, if it takes me to 2 o'clock to do it. And there's the mass exodus. All right, so turn to Matthew chapter 5. We're going to pick up in verse 14. Just kind of put your finger there. It's going to take me a minute to get there. But we'll get there. That's where we're headed. I'm going to give you time to get there. So as you're turning, I don't have a joke. I just have a funny revelation I had this morning. As I was putting finishing touches on this, me and my daughter had a shared experience for a few minutes last night. She was writing a sermon as well. She'll be giving it tonight at the talent show. So if nothing had compelled you yet, then come see a miracle. Rabon is going to give a short sermon. Just so you know, my sermon today is roughly 7 pages in length. Her sermon for tonight is 8 pages in length. I'll struggle to do mine in 30 to 45 minutes. She'll do hers in a minute and a half. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm telling you, it's crazy. So I don't know why the Lord didn't give me that gift, but... And there we go. All right, so we're going to talk about evangelism. I think Olivia's sharing this morning was just, man, so spot on with where the Lord has been stirring our church, where he's been driving us to. As we wrap up the series based on the book, Becoming a Contagious Christian, we're going to hit the last part of the formula, clear communication. But before we do, I want to review where we've been. So in our first week, we looked at Luke chapter 15, where we discovered that the lost matter to God. And as such, they better matter to us. I hope that I've said that phrase in each of these 4 messages. I hope that is like burned in your brain. The lost do matter to God, and they had better matter to us. If they don't matter to us, we're wrong, not them. Okay? So the lost matter to God, they better matter to us. Then the next week, we looked at Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, just above where we'll be today, where we saw the layout of salt and light, and we understand that salt, we can gain some properties from looking at how we should be like salt. And so in week 2, we learned about being highly potent. We have to, as Doug has said many times, be real, be compassionate. What's that third one? Be consistent. That's right. So be real, be compassionate, and be a consistently good Christian. Then in our third week, we looked at Luke chapter 5, verses 27 through 31, where we talked about one of those things that's a little uncomfortable for the church, and that is to be in close proximity to the lost. We looked at the party that Matthew threw, where he invited his new saved friends to mash it up with his old lost friends and said, let's see what kind of chemical reaction we can get to occur in this environment. Now today we're going to jump into clear communication. Many of us, we do pretty well with parts 1 and parts 2 of the formula. In fact, I would say most of us, we major on either high potency or close proximity. So some of us are highly potent, And when I say that every time, since this is my last week, I'm just going to go ahead and say the funny that's been in my mind every time I say that word. Some people are so potent, they're like what you smell when you walk by the middle school boys' locker room. Highly potent. It's a lot funnier at 1 o'clock this morning. Not as displeasurable as that would be, but surely with the same intensity. That's how some Christians have accomplished their life, and that's good. That's not a bad thing. You should be highly potent. But they've been so highly potent that they're very uncomfortable being around lost people. They're very uncomfortable rubbing elbows and rubbing shoulders with the truly down and out. They have a hard time. You might say they're so heavenly minded, no earthly good. I think I've heard that one a lot. But a lot of people in the church have become that way. We focus so much. On the other side of that coin, you have a lot of people who major on close proximity. They have no problem being right up next to the world. They just don't have anything to give them. They haven't put the work in, they haven't put the time in to become highly potent. So although they rub shoulders with the lost, although all their friends are lost, they're having no effect on the lost. Most of us Christians do, when we look at the 3 parts of our formula, right? High potency plus close proximity plus clear communication. We can all feel pretty good about either a high potency or proximity. But very few of us do both. And even fewer of us do a good job with clear communication, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. I've been studying 3 verses for 2 weeks, getting ready for this. And I told Mary Ann I was going to preach for an hour and a half because I think I could. But I'm not gonna. I'm going to do my best to keep this rocket sled on rails and see what we can do here. So as we look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, it says, "You are the light of the world." This is Jesus talking in the Sermon on the Mount. It says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Jesus gives us 2 word pictures here and then a directive. And that's what we're going to do today. As we walk through this, we're going to break down these 2 word pictures, and then we're going to get into the directive. In verse 14, we're going to talk about how we can glow in the dark. So in verse 14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." Let's just stop there and think about that. You are the light of the world. So this is Jesus on the side of a mountain preaching to his disciples. And he doesn't say, "I am the light of the world." Although he did say that at one point. In this particular sermon, he said, You are the light of the world. You. And then he says, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. And I want you to think, first, let's put ourselves on the side of the mountain. A lot of guys believe that at that time, Jesus is a great teacher. He probably looked across to another hillside, and there was a city there. It's a perfect illustration, right? Our guys are great, but I couldn't get them to build a city on a hill in the short time I gave them, right? So you're just going to have to visualize it with me. So Jesus says, a city on a hill, it cannot be hidden. You thought, well, what are you trying to say to us, Lord? What are you trying to say? You're sitting under the greatest teacher to ever walk the planet, and he goes, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. Which one of the pupils in the class goes, duh. You're Jesus. You're supposed to be revealing something to me. And he looks back and says, I am. Dig deeper, right? So, when he talks about a city on a hill, I was thinking about, for those of you who don't know, we live out in York, and so we take Highway 161 from York into Rock Hill all the time. That's our daily commute. But there's a spot on Highway 161 when you're headed from York to Rock Hill that if you'll look out the left side of your car at nighttime, you'll see very clearly the tall buildings in Charlotte. You'll see them all lit up. So I was measuring on the map, that's 23.26 miles as the crow flies. And so I began to think as I was reading, I was like, man, that's kind of like that. It's kind of like seeing Charlotte. You can't hide it. The only way to hide it is to pull the plug on it, right? So long as it's lit up, you can't hide it. It's impossible to hide. A city on a hill, you cannot hide. I also, because I have small kids, and y'all seen the movie Trolls? Okay. Any of y'all without small kids seen the movie Trolls? Okay. All right. So there's a scene in the movie Trolls, certainly in the movie where Poppy, who is the, they're all that, anyways. The Trolls. Poppy's the princess, and she's throwing this big party, this big celebration that, she likes to make everybody happy. Trolls are all colorful and glittery, and anyways. I'm a little more like a Bergen than a troll, but anyways. So they're throwing this party, and there's these fireworks going off and all this kind of stuff. And they showed the mean old lady from Bergen Town, the chef, and she's looking for trolls because Bergens eat trolls. Okay, I just caught y'all up. Okay, so the whole movie is Bergens looking for trolls and trolls hiding from Bergens. It is what it is, anyways. So I guess you just got to see it. But so in the middle of this dark jungle, all you can see is treetop canopies. All of a sudden you see these rays of light and all this stuff popping up. And you're like, oh, that's where the trolls are, That's like a city. That's the image. I want you guys to get this. When he says a city on a hill cannot be hidden, he's speaking about the obvious nature that light cannot be hidden. Okay, light cannot be hidden. Okay, so the other thing that I want to draw your attention to is if we go back to Proverbs chapter 4. So put your finger there, and we're going to flip over to Proverbs. I knew where I was going last night, so I cheated and put me a marker there. That's why I got there so fast. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 18. In Proverbs chapter 4, leading up to this, they're going through the writers telling us all about how the wicked are and what the wicked are like. And in fact, in verse 16, I was reading this the other day, and I thought, man, that's just so descriptive. In verse 16, it says, talking about the wicked, it says, for they cannot rest until they do evil. They are robbed of sleep till they make someone stumble. They eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. That's the wicked. Verse 18. So in the middle of all that talking about the wicked, one of these is not like the others. Verse 18. Boom. Slide it in there. That means it's important. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. But the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. So now we've had the image of the city on the hill. Now I want you to think about the sunrise. Now I'm kind of like Mark Lowry. I believe that the Lord wanted me to see the sunrise. He put it in the middle of the day, which is a perfectly good time to get out of bed. But he didn't. And there have been times I've had to see the sunrise. And I have to admit, I kind of enjoy them. If I'm going to be up, a few things I'd rather see than a sunrise if I'm going to be awake that early. A breakfast buffet is one, but anyways. So when we think about this image of the righteous is like the morning sun. The righteous, that should be us, right? Y'all get that. You connect that dot, right? The righteous should be the Christians, right? That should be us. Okay. We should be like the morning sun. Okay? Now, I know some of y'all ain't never seen no sunrise, so I'm going to tell you kind of how it goes. Okay, so it's dark. It's nighttime. Y'all familiar with that? Y'all night owls like me, you know what it's like when it's dark. And then all of a sudden, it starts to get a little bit light, a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. And then if you can see the horizon, you go, because this big old ball of gas millions of miles away suddenly comes into view. And all darkness is gone. It's gone. And it's warm. And there's just something exciting about it. I've never seen someone watch. Now, I ain't seen many of them, so y'all might have some data points that I don't have. But I've never seen someone watch a sunrise and be depressed. I've never seen someone watch the sunrise and the sun coming up be the thing that gets them down. The sun coming up has always been the thing that can generate hope and excitement in a person's life. It's a new day. There's new opportunity. It's the beginning and not the end. The Christian, the righteous, we should be like the rising sun. So when Jesus is telling us, you're the light of the world, a city on a hill cannot be hidden, we see the same imagery here. So these two images I want you to have in your head. Try me again. Nothing? I might have got a little excited and hit the button. It lost power. I noticed my light wasn't green anymore. So my light's green now. My light. We just gonna switch. Half tempted to rip this thing off my head before it shocks me. It's going to be hard to talk with my hands now. We're going to have trouble. We'll never get out of here before 2 o'clock. You guys want to make me be quiet? Tie my hands up. Like Samson and his hair. Anyways. So as I was preparing, I got these images in my head, and this is what we're looking at. The city on a hill, and actually kind of the way I see it, is it's a city in a nightscape, right? So, the sun's kind of setting, and you start to see the lights inside the individual houses pop up across the hill, So that's what Jesus is saying, like, that light, it's just there. It's just there. You can't, it's there or it's not. Light's on or off. Light it until some rascal invented dimmer switches. But anyways. And then you start talking about the rays of the morning sun. I want you to have those images in your head when we think of Jesus' statement that you are the light of the world. That's what he's talking about. We're supposed to glow in the dark, church. Glow in the dark. That's what we're supposed to be. Let's jump into verse 15. I got to go fast. In verse 15, he continues on, neither. So that was your first image. Your first image was a town built on a hill. It cannot be hidden. Verse 15 says, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. So now our second image is of a lamp. Think about an oil lamp, one of them old kerosene lamps. Or a lantern, like we have here today. There's two things about this illustration that I want to draw out. One is placement, and two is purpose. So he tells us two things about this lamp. He tells us about where it's placed, and he tells us why it's lit. So as he gives us a second mental picture, you got to understand that they didn't have electricity. They didn't have light bulbs. So if there was going to be any light in your house at all, it was going to come from a lamp, right? Maybe a torch if, you couldn't afford a lamp. But the lamp was how they lit their homes. And now I'm going to paraphrase just a little bit what Jesus said here, because we don't know a whole lot about lamps, and I don't know about you, but when I hear, put it under a bowl, I'm like, what's that mean? So really, you can read this more like Jesus says, who turns the lights on and then unscrews the bulbs? Right? Who walks in here, flips all the light switches, gets a ladder out, and unscrews all them bulbs so you can't see nothing? That's dumb. No, the purpose of lighting a light is to spread throughout the house, dispelling the darkness. So why you light a light? Because you don't want to be in the dark. So those of y'all don't know, because I have nothing better to do with my time, me and Sean Barnes here, we're just not busy enough, We we have a hobby of flipping houses. And I say that as a matter of faith because we flipped one. We're flipping a second one by faith. We were working Friday night, and we were working last Saturday. That's what it was. We were working last Saturday, and we were pulling down some ceiling boards, exposing some things in the attic, and we got our first good look at the wiring of the house. At which point, I went, "Go throw the main breaker." I said, "Why?" I said, "I see two wires laying side by side that have burn marks on the insulation." So, okay. So what we did was we threw the main breaker, and we were in the dark. Because we couldn't tell what circuits were going to what because it's a 100-year-old house. Anyways. So this Friday night when we went out to the house, our main objective was get it to where we can turn the lights back on without rewiring the house. So anyways, what we did was we took these lanterns. And let me tell you something. If you've never been in a 100-year-old house in the light in the country, let me tell you something. You don't want to be in one in the dark. You want some light. Light's a good thing. So we worked fast to get some light up in the house. The light has a placement and a purpose. Okay? So let's talk about the placement first. So Jesus said, "Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl." So now we know where not to put the light. You don't put it under a bowl. So what that means, so there would have been like a lantern, and literally, if you wanted to conceal the light, you would put a bowl over it and no light gets in or out. It's like, well, that's, again, my opinion, that's just dumb. Who would do that? But instead, if you're going to light a lamp, you put it up on its stand. Hear that. If a light has been lit, it's not going to be pushed in a corner. It's not going to be pushed into obscurity where no one can see it. It's going to be put in a place where it can be noticed. Now, I put this in my notes, and I might just read this part because I really want to make sure that nobody misunderstands me. Any of you who know me really well know that one of my biggest pet peeves is prosperity preaching, because I don't think it works in the Middle East. So if it don't work there, then it don't work. So don't misunderstand what I say when I say he's going to put you in a place to be noticed. Don't misunderstand it like I'm saying that he's going to make you vice president tomorrow. Don't get me wrong. He's going to elevate you to a place where you can be noticed. But elevate does not mean promote, make you famous, make you popular, get you elected, make you rich. It doesn't mean that. It means he's going to put you in a dark room. You understand that? He's going to put you somewhere where people can notice you. People know in my company where I work, not my flipping business, but in the company where I work, we know everybody at the company where we flip houses. There's two of us. The company where I work, we all know the janitors. You know why? They're in a cubicle. They come into our space. We know them. Now, I'm not knocking down janitors. I'm just saying we all know there's a difference between a janitor and a CEO, right? At the same time, people might know who our CEO is, but very few people notice. Very few people are in a position to know how he acts and what he does and where they're not in that place. But let me tell you something. I know all about our buddy, the janitor. I know all about what kind of truck he drives. I know all about what he thinks about stuff because he's in my space. He's in a place where we have time to talk. So I want to make sure you don't misunderstand whenever I make a statement like he's going to elevate you, he's going to put you up on a stand. A stand is not a pedestal. He's not going to put you up in a high, mighty place necessarily. Now, he might put you there. I mean, he can use presidents and he can use CEOs and he can promote you. Don't get me wrong. He can do those things, but
This isn't a promise that he'll do that. This is a promise that he'll put you in a dark room. Because a light's best function. A lot of you heard me say this, right? No light shines brighter than when it's in the dark. So placement, right? He's going to put you up on a stand. Second, let's talk about purpose. Verse 15 ends with a proclamation of what the purpose is. Verse 15 says, and it gives light to everyone in the house. So the reason that lamp got lit, nobody walked into a room and went, I just think I'll light a lamp. No, they walk into a room, they light a lamp because it's dark. It's dark. The point of the lamp, the point of the light is to dispel the darkness. The minute you light a room, we wrestled with this, me and Sean Bolner, we kept trying to figure out how to do this. We just got too much light in this room. That was kind of punny, y'all. Too much church, light. Okay, anyways. It was funnier at 1 this morning. Anyways, y'all should have been there. It was great. What I really wanted to show you guys was in a vacuum of light, in a place where there's absolutely no light, I wanted you to see how fast darkness disappears when you turn the light on. But praise the Lord, we have such a beautiful place with all this glass, and I couldn't get all the light out of it. So you just have to imagine it with me. If you've ever been in a dark room, you know what it feels like when the lights get turned on. You know that comfort and that relief that's there. You've seen how fast darkness disappears. So whenever we talk about, the word tells us that it gives light to everyone in the house. That means that lamp has a job. It has a responsibility. It has a purpose. And its purpose is to run the darkness out of the place. Understand that when Jesus lights you up and places you in a room, you have a job to do. You have a job to do. You're not there just to look pretty. Although you might be a real ornate lamp. Your job is not to look pretty. That's icing on the cake. Your job is to run every bit of darkness out of there. To convert the darkness into light. Some lamps do little more than occupy space. But a lit lamp's purpose is to illuminate the room. The room represents your sphere of influence. Some people might change rooms 12 times a day. The Lord might have you in such a place where you go from room to room to room throughout the day. Understand that that's like a lamp in the hand of the master, and he's walking from room to room, and he expects you to light up every one that you go into. Some people might be in the same room for a decade. It doesn't mean your job's any less important. It means your job is to light that room up. You're the perfect lamp for that decor. You match everything in that room, and it is just perfect. It's so pleasing to, it's just the way. So shine in that room. Don't say, I'm tired of looking at this room. Say, ain't no darkness in this room. I'm shining. Been shining for 9 years. We're going to make it 10. You know what I'm saying? Your job is to shine. That's it. It don't matter where you shine. Your job is to shine. So whenever we talk about it gives light to everyone in the room. It didn't say to 5 people in the room. It didn't say to 2 people in the room. It didn't say to 200 people in the room. It said it gives light to everyone in the room. That tells me that the light from that lamp is powerful enough to reach into every corner of the room. Every crevice of darkness. That light is powerful to just penetrate and get over there and say, oh, no darkness here. So as Jesus is telling us, remember this all began from a statement. You are the light of the world. We have a placement and a purpose. As we move into point 3. Your job is to be the glass. Be the glass. In verse 16, Jesus has given us these 2 word pictures to think about. And then he says, in the same way. In what way? The same way, right? So what's he talking about when he says the same way? You got to go back and see verses 14 and 15. So just like the city on the hill. So when he says in the same way, he's saying just like the city on the hill. And just like a lamp in the room. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Notice it does not say that they may see how good you are and think real highly of you. That they would notice what a beautiful lamp you are. It doesn't say that. It says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. The purpose is that they will find Jesus. I brought this Coleman lantern in this morning as I prepared this. This is kind of the illustration that went aha in my head. I hope it goes aha today. I'm a little bit worried with my track record. So in the lantern here, for those of you who didn't do a lot of camping, I'm actually kind of nostalgic here because I borrowed this from the Ranger hut, and I'm pretty sure that I camped with that lantern. I'm pretty sure I did. This is where the fuel would be. These little white things on the inside, I don't know if you can see them or not, these little white things on the inside, those are called mantles. And they are the newfangled version of what a wick used to be. So used to you had a wick that was in some oil, and then, you light the wick and it burns. Okay, anyways. So this is the newfangled thing. And then this is glass. So let me ask you a question. When that lantern's lit and hanging in my campsite, do I see the glass or do I see the mantle? Which one do I see? I see the mantle, right? I see. This is the light. The mantle is the light source inside. That's where all the light's coming from. No mantle, the glass is useless. You understand that? No mantle, the glass is useless. When Jesus is telling us to shine, he's not telling us to shine all of who Jason Rabon is. He's saying that light that's inside of you, that's what they better be seeing. You're supposed to be like this glass. The cleaner this glass, the more that Jesus they going to see. Let that sink in. In the same way, like a city on a hill. In the same way, like a candle in a room, let your light shine before others. So you say, Jason, well, that's really great. What's that got to do with clear communication? I don't know. But it sounded good, didn't it? No, okay. Let me just tell you something. I wrestled with this and I wrestled with this. And I said, Lord, I know I felt such a stirring about this particular passage. But I also felt such a stirring about we don't do clear communication very well. And the book that all this began out of, they've got some great illustrations, some great real practical dialogue kind of things. And I encourage you, it's a cheap book. I think I bought one this week for $9. Get your hands on it. It'll change your life. But I like to give you the Bible when I'm up here. Nothing changes a man's heart like the Word of God. Even Brother Hybels, he's good. But he ain't God. And he'd tell you that. So I began to say, all right, well, Lord, what's this got to do with clear communication? Because I'm feeling a stirring in both. What are we going to do? How's this reconcile? How's this work? And last week, Pastor made a statement about the maniac from the Gadarenes. And y'all remember that? He talked about, how the townspeople, they got all upset because their pigs done run off a cliff. But then what did Jesus say to the guy who had been set free, who was there sitting, listening in his right mind, being taught by Jesus? Jesus said, go back and tell them what's happened to you. That's clear communication, folks. That book will walk you through all kind of styles and tactics, which are good. But my favorite, and it's my favorite because it's the one that suits me best, but it's your testimony. Share your testimony. Tell what the Lord has done in your life. Because, I've been through the experience where people have said, that can't be real. And I'm kind of like the blind man who Jesus healed, and everybody wanted to know, oh, is he this or is he that? And the blind man said, look here, I don't know who he is, but let me tell you one thing. I was blind, but now I can see. And can't nobody argue with me about that. I've had to stand up and tell people before, look, you might be a lot smarter than me on a lot of things. And I don't have all the answers. But I'm going to tell you that I used to be addicted. I used to battle all kind of other problems. I used to have anxiety. I used to be very mouthy and disrespectful. Well, some things I'm still a little mouthy from time to time. I'm not perfect. But I know that I once was lost, and now I am found. Not, I once was lost and I found my way back home. Here's the difference. I once was lost, and Jesus came and hunted me down, and he brought me home. And he'd do the same thing for you. Folks, that's clear communication. In a nutshell, that's clear communication. You know, I can give you some pointers, some tactics. Basically, rehearse, understand what the Lord did. Spend some time meditating on it and thinking about it. Thinking about what has he done in my life. And don't rehearse it so that you can just repeat it back like a speech in middle school. The only reason I want you to rehearse it is I want you to be comfortable with the story. A lot of times, it's uncomfortable what we used to be. I know there's things that I don't like that I used to be. But if someone's lost, they need to know that Jesus' power is strong enough to save them from even that. You know? So when we talk about clear communication, worship team, if you guys will come on, I'm going to wrap this thing up. When we talk about clear communication, I'm going to remind you what the Word says in Romans chapter 10. Now, earlier in chapter 10, it said in verse 14, it says, how then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. And that's what I thought the answer was. And although that's important, I want to highlight that he's talking specifically about the Israelites there when he's talking about they. So I kept reading. And I came across something that I've heard, a lot of you have probably heard this a lot of times. In verse 17, it says, consequently, faith comes by hearing the message. And the message is heard through the word about Christ. And I went, that's it right there. You see, as the Lord lights you up, as the Lord sets you on fire, he's going to put you in a place where you can be noticed. As you shine, you're going to have the opportunity to talk. You're going to have the chance to talk. My encouragement to you is look for the opportunity to talk. Too many of us live our lives, when we think of evangelism, we think, merely if I will shine. I mean, Olivia got right up next to it this morning when she talked about the fella that they talked to in that hostel. And she began to talk about, there's something to be said for living a holy and a righteous life. That it's noteworthy. It's true. But I wonder if they had not had some gospel conversations with him before, would their testimony have meant nearly as much? Would the fact that they lived their lives as good people, would it have been enough if they hadn't paired with it their willingness to talk about the wonders of Jesus Christ? I don't think so. The other thing I'd like to draw out as we come to a close, this is, I like to be transparent with you guys. This is the area where I feel my heart being stirred. Jesus talks about that lamp being lit and nobody putting it under a bushel. I mean, that's the old King James word. Nobody putting it under a bowl. Nobody hiding it. And I worry that as our Bible Belt, let's just call it what it is. In the South, a lot of times it's good to be a Christian, but every day it becomes a little less good as culture changes. I fear that many of us, we may not unscrew all the bulbs from the light fixture, but we might unscrew 3 out of the 5. And we do it with good intentions. We say, well, I'm looking for that right opportunity. I don't want to run them off. Let me tell you something. When you speak to a lost person, if in your heart you speak to them with the love of Jesus, if you ensure that you've done the work to have a clear piece of glass between you and the master, you ain't going to run them off. You ain't going to run them off. Because there's something attractive about light. Ask a fly. Ask any kind of bug. There's something attractive about a light. Thinking about these lanterns, I was thinking about whenever I was a kid and we played Capture a Flag out at Camp Dixon. So as you don't know, the Capture a Flag, there's 2 teams. Each one of you has a flag. You're trying to get the other person's flag, The boundary line at night. We always play at night. It's more fun at night. Yeah, I look back now as an adult and I go, man, the trouble we could have gotten into. Anyways, there's this boundary. And that boundary was lit up with lanterns. And then the other place that was mandated that had to be lit up was the base where the flag was. And I remember as a kid, I was a little boy back then. I was probably, anyways, I've never been short. I was probably 8, 9 years old, out there with the big kids, And sometimes you get there and you get kind of lost and twisted around in the woods. But you could look up and you see that light. Even if it was the boundary, at least then you knew where you were at. There's something attractive about that light. There's peace and there's comfort. We have storms around here from time to time when we lose power. Never understood how unnerving darkness could be till I had a small child. And Kennedy's like, get the power back on. I'm like, sorry, honey, I can't. It's out of my control. I never thought the absence of light could cause such panic. That's the purity of our human nature. We want to be in the light. So as you become lit, as Jesus lights you up, He puts you in a place where you're going to be noticed. It's going to become your job to tell people about the good things of Jesus Christ. There's nothing more attractive to a world that's lost and dying and hurting than to know that there is a Jesus who has all power and who loves them, who wants them to succeed, who wants them to win. He's in their corner. He's not out to hurt them. He's not out to break them. He's not out to crush them. He wants them to win. He wants them to find Him. How are you going to offend someone with that kind of message? I think the problem is that sometimes we go to share this light, we put our own shapes on it, and we're casting shadows out. Let the pure light of Jesus Christ shine through you. You let all of Jesus shine through you. As we bring this series and this sermon to a close, I want to read one last thing because I was just doing too good on time and I couldn't shut up then. Many of you are familiar with the song Go Light Your World by Chris Rice. And I want you guys to think about, when you get time, go home and Google the whole thing and get all the lyrics. So it's so powerful. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, because I think it aligns with our world today, it's the second verse. It says, frustrated brother, see how he's tried to light his own candle some other way. See now your sister, she's been robbed and lied to, and she holds a candle without a flame. than the indicative to us. So carry your candle. Run, don't walk. Run to the darkness. Seek out the lonely, the tired, and the worn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. I don't think we can have a series on evangelism where we don't ponder these words and ask the question, am I running into the darkness? Am I shining? Am I the lamp in the middle of the room? If you would, guys, I'm going to ask you to stand. Almost done. I ask you to bow your heads.